Hello, and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to talk about this item of news, which was in the news last week, I believe, and it's titled Rescuers Save 8 People Trapped in Pakistan Cable Car. As usual, I'll read it through paragraph by paragraph, and at the end of each paragraph, I'll highlight a couple of interesting words um, which I have highlighted in yellow. So, in a dramatic rescue operation, all 8 people, including 6 children and 2 teachers, who were stranded on a cable car dangling hundreds of feet over a valley in northwest Pakistan, have been rescued, the country's caretaker prime minister said in a statement on Tuesday. So, the first word we're going to look at is stranded. This is used in the passive, so to be stranded, and basically it means to be in a place where you don't want to be. So, for some reason, let's say you're traveling by car and your car breaks down, has a mechanical problem, then we could say you've been stranded. You're in a place that you don't want to be, and you can't get out of that place. So, in this case, the people were stranded on the cable car. And that brings us to the second word which is highlighted, which is dangling. This is the verb dangle in the present continuous tense. And as we can see in the photograph underneath here, the cable car is dangling from the cable. So it's dangling is very similar to hanging. And in this case, the cable car was dangling and it couldn't move, it was stranded. So let's continue with the second paragraph. The group was traveling to school in the province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa when one of the gondola's cables snapped, leaving them stuck some 270 meters above a valley, officials said. The cable car was traveling between 2 villages and had made multiple trips on Tuesday before the cable snapped. So the first word we highlight in this paragraph is snap, which is a verb. When something snaps, it breaks suddenly, usually with a loud noise. In fact, I think this word is a little bit onomatopoeic. In other words, it's imitative, it imitates the sound that it describes. So if you imagine holding an elastic band, and if you're pulling on that elastic band and you keep pulling and pulling until suddenly it breaks, that is a good illustration of the verb snap. So in this case, the cable that was attached to the cable car, or the gondola, if you like, broke suddenly. It snapped. And as a result of that, the cable car and the people in the cable car were stuck 270 meters above the valley. So this is the second word that's highlighted. This is the irregular verb stick, stuck, stuck. And basically, it's kind of similar to stranded in this sense because it means that you are in a position and you cannot move. A common illustration of this would be if you are stuck in traffic. If you live in a big city with a lot of traffic, it's a common phenomenon that there's a queue of cars. In British English, we often call it a traffic jam. And this is a good illustration because when you're stuck in a traffic jam, you cannot move or you move very, very slowly. So let's move on to the third paragraph. The rescue began on Tuesday morning local time and involved helicopters and the use of zip lines, officials said. But as night fell, Pakistani authorities were forced to pause helicopter rescues of the remaining children and adults due to strong winds that thwarted earlier attempts to reach those trapped. So, the first word we're going to highlight here in this paragraph is zip lines. Now, this is one of those words that has a couple of different meanings. Probably the more common use of this word, where you would find it more commonly, would be as an element of clothing. It's commonly found on things like jackets or trousers, and it's an element that is used to quickly open and close a jacket. You pull it up and you close the jacket, and you pull it down and it opens the jacket. But in this case, obviously, that is not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about clothing here. In this case, a zip line is a long rope or cable down which somebody can pass very quickly. Usually, they're attached by some kind of mechanism which they hold on to, and they travel along the cable or the rope quickly because of gravity. This is called a zip line. And I'm guessing here that the reason we use zip is because zip is often associated with speed. So the person is traveling pretty fast. So I'm guessing that's why they call it a zip line. The second word we have highlighted here is due to. Now, when we say something is due to something else, we're talking about causality here. One thing is causing another. So in this case, the helicopter rescue was paused because of the strong winds. It was due to the strong winds. It's quite a formal way of saying, talking about the causes of something. And the final word in this paragraph is to thwart, which is a regular verb in the past, thwarted. And as we can see from the context here, it was the winds thwarted the attempt to reach those people who were trapped. So we can understand that the wind prevented those people being rescued. Okay, let's move on to the penultimate paragraph. Footage released by the rescue services captured the dramatic moment when one child appeared to jump from the cable car while desperately clinging to the end of a rope attached to a helicopter. The child was then lifted to safety by rescuers on the ground. Another video showed a rescuer descending from a helicopter to the cable car and instructing the passengers inside. So we have two words here. First word is footage. And this is relatively simple to define. It's basically just video. It's a word which is commonly used to mean video. And I think it really comes from the age of film, when we were talking about measuring the actual physical film in feet. There's different ways of measuring things. In the metric system, we use meters. In America, they commonly use feet. So the film was measured in feet, hence footage. But I'm just guessing about that, so I'm not 100% sure. The second word is cling. This is a verb, to cling, and it's very similar to the word hold. When you're holding on to something, you're clinging to that. And in this case, the child was holding on very tightly to the rope, which was attached to the helicopter. So let's move to the final paragraph. The rescue operation was completed by 10 p.m. local time, according to Rehman. He said all 8 people were in good health and had been taken to a nearby hospital for a checkup. Many children who live in remote and mountainous parts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province rely on cable cars to ferry them to school and back. The cable cars are privately owned and operated by locals, who charge a small fee for each ride. So finally, we have two words here. The first is checkup, and a checkup is usually used in the sense of medical profession. When people go to the doctor, when they visit the doctor, they can have a checkup. So the doctor will check their health. Basically, they will monitor their breathing and their pulse rate, and perhaps do an analysis of their cholesterol or other things. This is a checkup. In this case, the people were checked to make sure that they were healthy and they didn't have any injuries or health problems. Finally, we have the word ferry. Now, this is an example of a noun, which can also be used as a verb. So as a noun, it refers to a kind of boat or ship, which is used to enable people and often vehicles to travel between 2 points, usually fairly short distances, perhaps over the sea or over a lake. And usually the ferry just goes back and forward all day long, carrying people and vehicles. So we use it as a verb in a similar sense when the helicopter is transporting the people back and forward from the cable car to their safety. So there we have it. Thankfully, everybody was rescued. So if you've enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you next time.